Shalom Israel. Welcome to another edition of Stick to the Script Current Events. I'm SHAMAR, and to my left, Aman Allah. Give me a quick mic check on this one. If you can unmute the mic, Zach. So we you know how the current events go. These are just some basic things that we've come across, some major historical events, things of that nature that we feel all of Israel should be abreast of. I always encourage that this is just a baseline of information, something to, something to kind of spark that investigator in all of us that makes us want to go and research. Don't let this be the extent of the things that you look at and find out, but this can be a part of it. Mic test. The scriptures say, "Be not ignorant of anything, great or small." Be not ignorant of anything, great or small. So let's go over to the PowerPoint and just start talking about some of the things. Obviously, there's a lot to talk about. You saw the news this morning, the Russian-Ukrainian conflict. So we're going to start to, talk about a little bit of everything. First off, there was a major storm in Brazil. The death toll went from, I believe it was at 90 initially. Now it's up to 186, and this is just the first week that they're looking for bodies. So the death toll from flash floods and landslides that hit the Brazilian city of Petrópolis has risen to 186, authorities said, 1 week after torrential rains lashed the tourist town. Since the storm, rescue workers have searched for victims, digging through the mud and wreckage left by devastating landslides that mainly hit poor hillside communities. The number of people missing currently stands at 69, a figure that has been falling as victim bodies are identified and as families separated in the initial chaos manage to reunite. So it was 186 people that were killed in the landslides and the mudslides. It's been a lot that's going on in the earth. It's been a lot of death. People losing people in their families, people losing loved ones and people they actually know. And then we hear about things like this all the time where you have major catastrophic events. They call them, what do they call them? Acts of nature, so to speak. But we understand that that's the Most High. You've been seeing a lot of these things just reoccurring over and over and over again. 50 dead here, 90 there, 200 here, 100 there. It's a lot of death that's happening in the earth, and it's a lot of judgment that's going forth. That's what it really is. The Most High says he's the one that kills and makes alive. And let's get that in 1 Samuel. I'll read this real quick. 1 Samuel chapter 6 and, 1 Samuel chapter 2 and verse 6. It says, "The Lord killeth and maketh alive. He bringeth down to the grave and bringeth up." So all these things that we see that's happening in the earth, let a Christian tell you, they'll say, "Oh, that's the devil. He came to kill, steal, and destroy." The scriptures say that the Most High is the one who does all those things. Satan is under the Most High's control. He checks in and reports back to the Most High. You see that in the book of Job. Satan had to give a court or record of where he was, and the Most High said, "Okay, well, have you tried my servant Job?" Satan is reporting in and turning in his work like it's a, like he's showing what he's doing pretty much. He's under obedience just like everything else to the Most High. Right. The state of human trafficking and sports. Our biggest sports events have joy and compelling stories, but also have a dark side, as they are major targets for potential human trafficking threats. The UN-backed International Labor Organization estimates that there are more than 40 million current victims of the various forms of human trafficking globally. For perspective, in the 240-year history of the Atlantic slave trade, before the Emancipation Proclamation in 1863, there were 24 million slaves globally, including 10 million in the Americas. So that's just to go, they're trying to give a grand scope of just how big it is. 40 million worldwide. They estimate that there was only about 24 million actual slaves at the time of the Emancipation Proclamation. But notice, and this is just, a little sidebar, Only 10 million out of the 24 were in Americas, which means there are 14 million people outside of America, at least according to these numbers, that were in the transatlantic slave trade. So it was more people taken to other countries than it was actually in America. It says it was quite a year for sports in 2018. The year kicked off with an underdog triumph in Super Bowl that's 52 at the recently built U.S. Bank Stadium in Minneapolis, where the Philadelphia Eagles beat the New England Patriots. It's crazy how they turned it into football right after the sex trafficking.
Yeah. Well, part of it, what it is, what between this and the second article is actually explaining too. Not only are some of these high-profile events major places where people not necessarily, well, the people that are involved in, that are getting trafficked, they're not necessarily involved in the sports industry, but the actual athletes themselves or sold to be athletes actually get caught up within that ring and circle of trafficking as well too. Even I mean, it could be anybody from in any sport, you know, from soccer to football to basketball, and especially, you know, in international in Europe and such like that. Some of those players themselves could be victims of trafficking and as handles, you know, have handlers pretty much like that. And the article, the next one about the girl in China. Yeah, that's just a so this is like a preface of the next one.
No, I did want to point out this real quick.
Oh yeah, con.
It says human trafficking, known as modern day slavery, is the second largest criminal activity in the world and is a $150 billion a year industry. So my thing is this, right? I like to ask questions and dissect. First off, second largest criminal activity in the world, $150 billion a year industry. Well, first off, you have to know an industry's numbers as well as profits in order to be able to estimate something like that. So America has always played like this. It can't do anything about it. Like, oh, it's such a tragedy. That's like thoughts and prayers. You know that whole saying that every time something tragic happens, people say thoughts and prayers, but that obviously doesn't do anything for the actual people who are involved. People post that all the time. May not even be Christian, don't believe in the Most High, but it's thoughts and prayers. It's like, dude, if America is able, you're able to track somebody across the world on a 2004 Motorola, able to send a drone strike, you know, from some kid sitting in Seattle in a bunker underground, able to control a drone on the other side of the world and track an old, outdated microchip to send a rocket. And yet they have people that's, you know, right here in America's backyard, just like Epstein, just like R. Kelly. You have all these people that are right here in America that got cell phones, that got plane tickets, that got transcripts, all this kind of stuff that aren't being arrested and stopped. And even once Epstein got arrested, then he suddenly killed himself. So if America knows the profits, you got to know something about it. You got to know who's making those profits, where they're coming from. All these things that can be tracked and all these people can't be. Yeah. 40 million?
Within each respective socioeconomic, you know, sphere, you know, whatever department or industry you're in, you know, is happening and it's going down. And it makes sense, you know, that they'd want athletes because, you know, athletes are typically good-looking people and such like that. So that's something that they're preying on, especially when it comes to, I mean, you know, like high school and like college athletes like that. The younger they are, the more easy they are to, I guess you say, like bait them into eventually that lifestyle that they end up, you know, living and such like that. Like you can't say that some of these high-profile athletes or, you know, the secondaries amongst them haven't seen and don't know some of these things, but they can't say anything about it. No different than some of the stuff that goes down in the music industry. You know, it's all, when you're high profile like that, you've probably seen some of these things. So our people need to repent that are caught up in that regardless. But yeah. So this particular article, this is just a you know, girl. Her name is Peng Shuai. She's a she recently retracted a statement she had made, I think, a previous months ago about sexual assault by this high-profile, again, government leader. But if you guys know anything about how it goes when you expose people like Nick Cannon, when it comes to when it comes to the money or possibly whatever you may have been blackmailed about, people tend to be like, oh, I'm retracting the statement. So she is a recent example, a Chinese athlete in the Winter Olympics that was claiming these things happening, but these sexual assaults are probably happening to many different, and had been probably happening to many different sports athletes for, throughout many of these years, but they can't find the heart such as her to stick with the courage that they first initially started with and trying to get out and expose these things. But, we see this right here, retracting the statement. But, like, why would you make the statement in the first place?
Right.
So
it's all kind of, intimidation and political figures and people that, you can get God through and all kind of stuff going on.
That's about it.
Okay,
Both of them. That's what I'm saying. Both of them. Like,
in conjunction. It says, migrants in a deadly Coast Guard encounter tell lawyers no warning before gunshots. So 2 days after the 37 Venezuelan migrants were detained during an operation that led to the shooting death of a 1-year-old boy, a group of migrants who were aboard the vessel spoke to attorneys and gave their version of events. According to the attorneys, some aspects of the story contradicted the official version given in a Coast Guard press statement on Sunday. The release said that on a Saturday night, the TTS Scarborough detected a vessel crossing waters from Venezuela into TT's south coast. I believe that's Trinidad and Tobago. The Coast Guard reported that they tried to get the vessel to stop several times using an air horn, searchlight, and flares without success. Warning shots were also fired, but the vessel continued to try to evade capture. The Coast Guard said the vessel tried to outrun a smaller boat deployed by the TTS Scarborough several times, causing the officers to fire shots at the boat's engine to disable it. So the Coast Guard is saying officially, we gave them all these opportunities. We tried to stop them the nonviolent way, but then when they spoke to the actual migrants, they were saying, look, we didn't get any kind of warning. They just started shooting. Now, keep in mind, they're Venezuelan, and I believe they're going into Trinidad and Tobago. So these are Israelites. These are our people. It says a woman and her child were shot during the incident. The Coast Guard said the vessel eventually stopped, and only then it was discovered that there were illegal migrants on board who had remained hidden. The migrants detained aboard the vessel were taken to the Chorogums heliport, where they remained up to Tuesday afternoon. So, the scriptures talk about, matter of fact, let's go into 2nd Ezra. Talks about, in the end days, we always think, when we think of end days, we kind of, I feel like a lot of times we really don't know how it's going to happen. We know things are going to happen, but if we sit up here and look at the scriptures, how many things can we say have not happened? When it talks about people houses getting broken into and there's a break-in like every 12 seconds in America. We talk about, the love of many waxing cold. You see how easy it is for people to take lives. You see all these different things that are transpiring. You see the inflation. You see the wars and rumors of wars. We see all these things that are taking place, and we feel like it's supposed to be some big catastrophic. It's like, dude, it's already happening. But America is just giving us that sweet poison. No, don't worry about it. Go to work, clock in, clock out, go to the club, have your fun, turn up, smoke smoke what you're going to smoke, drink what you're going to drink. And a lot of times, we prefer to stay blind to it, but we see it all around us all the time. We've become accustomed to the war zone, but that doesn't make it any less of a war zone. Let's go to 2nd Ezra chapter 15. And let's start at verse 16.
2nd Ezra 15 and verse 16.
Uh-huh.
For there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another.
And invading one another. And that's literally what's going on. Not only in the sense of immigrants and migrants, but also in matters of war, right? Go ahead.
And they shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power.
Go ahead.
A man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able.
So we looking for like, this like Mad Max scenario where it's just wherever you are, that's where you got to stay, and can't nobody move, and it's war and death, and the whole time it's like people are already trying to move and aren't able. Ukraine just announced a lockdown, like maybe I saw the article about 45 minutes ago. Any male from 16 years old up until 60 years old is no longer allowed to leave Ukraine. So that's a man desiring to go into a city and is not able. You have all the Haitian migrants that we covered, I believe, last month. A man wanting to go into a city, not able. All the COVID restrictions. The Venezuelan refugees. There are so many instances across the globe where a man is desiring to go into a city and is not able. It may not happen the way, you see it in the movies, like everything terrible just happens all at once. Everything just, it's like it's undeniable. Like, well, of course, at that point, everyone's going to, but look at what's happening now, because that's why the scripture, the scriptures talk about he's going to come as a thief in the night. It's not going to be as obvious as what we feel. Now, if you looking and you reading and you look around the world, you're like, man, we getting close. But even then, it's, well, how close? We think that it's going to be the end of the year every year. 2019, that's the end. That's 400 years of captivity. It's fulfilled. Jake's is teaching that doctrine that the world was going to end in 2019. Here we are in 2022. Everyone can see that we're close, but no one can quite say how much more we got left. Would you say it's 30 years out? Oh, no. But I'm pretty sure Jake's was saying that in the 60s, going out and teaching people, in some of the first, I guess, documented or well-known Israelites in America, Yeah, the revival, exactly. And the revival, so to speak. I'm pretty sure they was like, man, look at all the stuff that's happening to our people. There's no way we're going to last another 10 years. And here we are about 60 years later. Well, 50 years later. So it's really no telling. Let's go over to the PowerPoint. Crazy as we're talking about all these different things, right? In this so-called Black History Month. African Americans say the teaching of Black history is under threat. So on top of all the other things that are happening in the world and in these various places, one of the things that never ceases is our children being under attack. Our children and our history being under attack. It says, Jamara Amani insists that her 4 children, ages 18 to 21, learn Black history. There's not very much incorporated in the public school education, which is why I have done a combination of homeschooling and public schools over the years, say Amani, 41. She now believes a bill from Florida legislators, one that bars material. Now, here's the stipulation. It bars material causing students discomfort, guilt, or anguish, would limit the accurate teaching of Black history, Black American history in schools. If this law passes, kids won't be able to see themselves reflected at all within their own education. So not only do they only give 1 month where they'll even decide to mention that our people have a history, that we have some type of past outside of America, they only give us 1 month, right? You go to school, it don't matter what school. For the vast majority of the time, you're not learning nothing about your people outside of 1 year or 1 month per year. Very limited amount of history. And then typically, it's the same coverage every year. They're going to go over MLK. They're going to go over Rosa Parks. You might get some Malcolm. Your teacher, they got to have some gumption about themselves to even give you some of that. And you ain't really hearing about too many other leaders. You're not hearing about much more of a political statement. Really, the one that they love is MLK. And out of all the other activists, he's the only one that really has his own day. He's the only one that's constantly honored and reaffirmed in so-called Black history is MLK. They had a big MLK parade, MLK Day. They give everybody the day off. And you man, it make you feel some type of way, make you feel kind of better. Okay, MLK was down for the people. And then you see what he had niggas doing, whoa. Yeah, man, we gonna bind our hands together and go out here and just let them slap you up. Let them do what they gonna do. Marching and having police dogs and water hoses, no affirmative action. He was take it.
And it sounds really ridiculous now in repentance, but I mean,
they was doing it. He had crowds of people. It wasn't like it was like, man, hell, they over there, they are crazy. Them few, it was, massive crowds following MLK. And that's the only person that really gets emphasized in so-called black history. He's the only person that really gets mentioned. But now they're going to limit that even further because now they won't even be able to teach about slavery. If this law passes, what could you say doesn't cause a student discomfort, guilt, or anguish? That literally narrows it down to practically nothing. Especially not when you're talking about white folks. That's who really is gonna get off the hook. It might be some black kids that's like, no, I don't want to hear about that. That makes me feel stressed out. A whole lesson for the day is over. They won't even learn about what little history the oppressor doesn't mind teaching them. Let alone if they, you go to a big high school outside of a so-called black neighborhood. You got white kids in the class that's like, hell no, that'd be shameless. I don't want to hear about that. I'm not gonna keep hearing about my ancestors enslaving yours. I'm finally getting somewhere with these niggas. Don't bring that part back up. That's going to have them looking at me sideways. I don't want to hear this, teacher. I feel uncomfortable. And it's that simple. That history is wiped out.
No, wow. No, just agreeing.
That's insane. It says this year a cloud hangs over Black History Month. New laws or directives in at least 13 states. So it's not like it's one here or there. It's 13 states that have already petitioned or are already producing laws to potentially get passed. Restrict what can be taught and how it can be discussed. So how long until they say, you already have people saying slavery never existed. And it's so much information out there. You have autobiographies of books. You have movies. You have all these different things, a lot of which become useful tools of talking and teaching slavery. A lot of times, growing up, you kind of get an idea of what slavery was, but when you really get to see it visualized in TV and movies, that's when it really hits a little different. Black and white definitely serves its purpose. It definitely helps you. But when you get to see it, some people, they got to see it. And when, showing those slavery movies, showing those shows where the slaves were going through so much, it helps. But now they like, if that's going to make somebody uncomfortable, you can't even do that. There ain't going to be really nothing taught. Our kids is really going to be out here lost because they're not even going to know anything about themselves. We don't even know we're Israel, let alone, knowing a little bit about slavery to know who our oppressors and who our enemies are. I know, seeing those things, learning about slavery, it did have me feeling some type of way growing up. But now it's a lot of kids that won't even be able to feel that. All during so-called Black History Month. Check this out, right? Discovery of a new HIV variant sends warning for the COVID pandemic.
Doubly.
Yeah. And I hope I included it. There was a woman who scientists were able to recently cure HIV in. And it seemed like right as soon as they had a potential cure and right as soon as they had something that might have been able to bring an end to the disease, they got hit with the HIV 2.0, new variant. It says, as SARS-CoV-2, the coronavirus that caused COVID-19, has spread throughout the world, many observers have failed to take note of the millions of illnesses and deaths caused by HIV, another virus that has approached pandemic status during its history. Now, an HIV variant that is more virulent and transmissible has been discovered in the Netherlands, where it apparently has been circulating for decades, according to new research. Luckily, none of the variant's new mutations make it resistant to widely used therapies, but the finding may offer a warning for how the COVID pandemic could proceed in the coming months. Viruses do not necessarily evolve to become milder. So, what's that game? It's a game called Plague Inc., right? It used to be free. I think they charged like $2 or $3 for it. And pretty much the goal of this game, it was like on PC and on the phone, iOS and Android. Pretty much you were trying to come up with the most infectious disease that you could. That was the objective of the game. It's kind of messed up, but it was, it kind of taught you something about disease. Yeah. And one of the best ways to be able to take over the world, which was the objective of the game, was to have a very transmissible disease with very few symptoms. That was the way that it slipped under the radar. If it started killing people off top, then everybody in the world will work on a cure, you would lose the game. So they're saying that this strain of HIV has been around for decades, 20, 30 plus years, and they haven't really caught it. But viruses are typically, they mutate quickly, right? They're constantly evolving. They're constantly trying to survive. They're constantly developing. And that's one of the reasons why COVID has been such a big topic of discussion, because every time you turn around, it's mutated and it has something different about it that they say is going to be different from the original. So if these two were to somehow mutate together to where you have the, what do you call that? The transmissibleness, is that the right word? Basically, the rate of transmission that COVID has with the symptoms of HIV, that would really be like a world-changing, population dicing sickness. And they're saying, it's already been around for quite some time, but it's only been in the Netherlands for whatever reason.
And you can't negate that HIV, as far as it's being downplayed in the media, it has never gone away. It's still always, it's still one of the biggest diseases that kill, in particular, our people around the world, because our people love to fornicate, and that's there for those that love to do that. So yeah, that virus has never cooled down.
And it's crazy.
Always been around.
And it's crazy how people fear like COVID way more over HIV and AIDS, even though this is like an actual deadly disease that they say has hit nearly pandemic levels. No, no vaccine for HIV, no treatment that I know of. Everybody's still amazed that Magic is still around because he got diagnosed all those years back before they claimed to have had certain types of medicine. But this is not the fear, because everybody wants what comes with it. People want to be able to fornicate and not think of consequence. The only reason why COVID was so bad is because it's like you don't have to do anything to get it. And it's like, oh no, anything we do, we could possibly get it. But with HIV, it's like, just don't talk to me about that one.
Yeah.
People want to be able to do what they're gonna do, and they don't want to think about any kind of consequence. It says, without treatment, people infected with a newly identified HIV variant have more than 3 to more than 5 times higher levels of the virus in their blood, making them more infectious. Plus, their immune system deteriorates twice as fast, setting them on a course to potentially develop AIDS years earlier than people with other versions of HIV. So it's that much more deadly. You have like 5 times amount of the virus in your blood, and it's taking you out twice as fast. It's been around for decades, and they're just now like, oh, look at that.
There's another strain.
Yeah, like, oh, wait a minute. Have you guys noticed that there have been, this alarming rate of growing numbers of HIV, and they're dying twice as? Maybe we should look at that. That's been going on all this time, and all the world knows about is COVID. That's crazy. It says, these findings published this month in Science indicate the newfound variant carries more than 500 mutations scattered across its genome, though it is unclear how they enable the virus to cause more severe disease. So what that really means is they're able to detect 500 different mutations, and they're not really sure what they do yet.
More than that they were originally looking for 20, 30 years ago in the 90s and such,
Right.
And it's crazy because I guess it's like HIV and COVID are like the viruses that lead you to get the other sicknesses pretty much. Like that. They weaken so it's nuts that so whatever chance it happen to be, you have both.
Right. They say, because like you were saying, it damages your immune system. Yep. So it literally weakens your ability to fight other things. If someone is sick with HIV or they already have full-blown AIDS, it's difficult for you to even be around them. You sneeze around them, they could get sick. And a common cold could be potentially fatal because they have so few white blood cells available to fight off any kind of sickness in the body. Yep. So that's going around and has been for decades, at least in the Netherlands. If I'm not mistaken, it's pretty cold in the Netherlands, right?
Yeah.
I want to say so, right? So,
there,
which may have offered answer as to why it hasn't spread the way COVID has, because it's not able to survive in the extreme temperatures to cross oceans. But it's there. And it's like there's no travel ban against the Netherlands. There's nothing to stop anyone from the Netherlands coming or going to any other country, having sex or doing whatever they're going to do in somewhere else and then spreading it. So it just draws the question, how many more diseases are out there? People that, yeah, especially in America, people that don't have health care, people that can't afford to go to a doctor, people that, you know, get sick and are afraid of doctors, whatever the case may be. How many more diseases are out there that aren't even identified or put up on the forefront the way that COVID has been?
Who can say?
Speaking of COVID, I was born free, I will die free. Hospital denies man a kidney transplant over his vaccination status. A North Carolina man who desperately needs a kidney transplant said he has been denied a life-saving operation because of his vaccination status. However, he said he is not changing his mind and said he's willing to die over his beliefs. Right now, Chad Carswell's kidney is only operating at about 4%. I do respect the fact that he said he's willing to die about what he believes in, though. He said he went to a hospital in Winston-Salem where he underwent numerous scans hoping to get a transplant, only to find out he was required to be vaccinated for COVID-19 prior to the surgery. Potential donors are also required to be vaccinated. Officials said it's part of the hospital's policy, but Carswell said he doesn't want to be forced to get a shot. When asked whether or not he might change his mind, Caswell told ABC affiliate WSOC, no, sir. I was born free, he said. I will die free. I'm not changing my mind. I've had conversations with my family and everybody who is close to me, and they know where I stand, and there will not be a situation that occurs where I'll change my mind on this topic. And it's crazy because we're talking about diseases, right? We're talking about all these sicknesses that are in the earth, and there are even more people dying because they're not conforming to the standards that are set forth. All the COVID patients that are in hospitals, all the people that show up to testing sites, it's like, it's just crazy. You know, the things that are getting prioritized versus the things that are getting overlooked.
Yeah, and there's a really big divide even, you know, between just dealing with COVID, you know, people that don't want to wear masks and people that do want to enforce wearing the mask. Like it's that's and there's no articles that we have particularly, but that's a big divide within just America in itself, you know, and people are going some white people in particular, they're going pretty nuts over that, you know. They're whatever they could find to pretty much protest about, they're doing it and riot about and throw Molotovs. They'll fight over the fact that they don't want to wear masks or that they should wear masks. So
right. But a nation divided against itself cannot stand.
Yep.
Army to begin discharging unvaccinated service members. So at a time where America is potentially going to be going to war, it's about to lose a good portion of its army over those that refuse to get vaccinated. More than 3,300 service members are at risk being thrown out of the Army after military leaders on Wednesday announced they will begin discharging soldiers who refuse to get a COVID-19 vaccine. The announcement comes after the Air Force, Marine Corps, and Navy had already begun discharging personnel for refusing the shots, and it applies to all soldiers who have refused to get fully vaccinated against the coronavirus and who do not have a pending or approved medical or administrative exemption, including a religious exemption. So, and that's what we're talking about, a nation divided against itself. All these things that are already happening, you have all these people who are potentially going to be discharged, all on account of what they decide, like, they're not going to do as far as getting the jab. And obviously, that's something that we stand against. You know, we recommend that, or rather, not even we recommend, but obviously we stand against the jab. We've gone over that in a lesson, not to go too in-depth into it, but the lesson is called What's a Jab to a Power Punch?
Right.
Watch that lesson, man. It says, many faith leaders wary of religious exemptions for vaccine. By the thousands, Americans have been seeking religious exemptions in order to circumvent COVID-19 vaccine mandates. But generally, they are doing so without the encouragement of major denominations and prominent religious leaders. From the Vatican, Pope Francis has defended the vaccine as the most reasonable solution to the pandemic. So mind you, you even got religious leaders out here. You're supposed to be you're supposed to be like basically the king of the men of God. Out of all the men on the earth, as a religious leader, someone should be able to look at you and you exemplify the ideals of a religion or a belief system more than the average Joe. You're who everyone is checking in on. You're who everyone's watching. You're supposed to be the example of the people, especially because he ain't no, 15, 16-year-old. He ain't no 20-year-old that's just this is an older man. This is an elder man. And he's sitting up here saying, yeah, you could pray and fast. And, the scriptures do talk about how God is the one that heals or makes sick. He's like, I don't know. I think the vaccine is what everybody should be doing. That's what the Pope is saying. So how much faith or how much of the Most High can even be found in a religion when even the religious leaders don't stand by their own God?
And they know that.
Like, man.
They know. They're bot men. They're bot men.
It says the Greek Orthodox Archdiocese of America declared, forgive me on that one, of America declared categorically that its followers would not be offered religious exemptions. Robert Jeffress, the conservative pastor of a Baptist megachurch in Dallas, voiced similar sentiments. So you have all these religious leaders. Again, they're supposed to be the examples. They're supposed to be the leader. You're literally, a religion is a practice, right? You wake up and brush your teeth every morning religiously. That's something that you practice, not necessarily believe in. So in the practice, these men are the leaders of that practice. They should be the most devoted, the most faithful, the strongest. And they're the ones who everyone's going to saying, hey, I need a shepherd. I need someone that's going to lead me, help me to understand, and to defend me from these mandates and and the government, all these things that are taking place. People are going back to their religious leaders in their church homes, so to speak, to seek that refuge. And the leaders are saying, but we kind of agree, though. We think that you should get that. That's crazy. It says, since there is, something you want to bring up?
I want to find the scripture real quick. To exemplify what you're saying.
It says, since there is no credible biblical argument against vaccines, we have refused to offer exemptions to the handful of people who have requested them. Jeffress told the Associated Press via email. People may have strong medical or political objections to government-mandated vaccines, but just because those objections are strongly felt does not elevate them to a religious belief that should be accommodated. It's crazy how, Christians, for example, you pay tithes every Sunday in church. They give you that one scripture, will a man rob God? And they're like, look, there's evidence that you should be giving up your money on a consistent basis. Why wouldn't you do that? Now they're saying, okay, well, we don't believe in the vaccine. And people are really starting to kind of choose a side, saying, no, I believe that God is responsible for that. I believe that God can heal me. I believe that God can protect me. And they're saying, well, where's the scripture? There's not enough evidence to support you being against vaccines that we can find. Well, find me tithes and find it in depth. Find who it was for. Find what it was and then when it became money. Find all these things where, all these teachings that are taught in the church. Show me those scriptures and validate those claims. Those things aren't happening. But as soon as people are looking for refuge in the places that they've called church homes and, family, all that kind of stuff that they've paid tithes to for years and been faithful to, now they're coming seeking that assistance and they're saying, you need to prove that to us.
Kind of got that scripture. Jeremiah 17:5 says, thus saith the Lord, cursed be the man that trusteth in man and maketh flesh his arm, and whose heart departeth from the Lord. And let alone that it's, heathens that cannot sustain the faith in the Most High, but our own people that think and operate like this too, thinking that, the COVID shot is, probably a lot better as a religious leader than that faith in God. And just because people trust in people more than they trust in the Most High at this point in time. So
Colin, it's crazy that you say that. Could we go over to Sirach chapter 38
Con.
and verse? We're gonna start at verse 1. We're gonna bounce around a little bit. You can bring it back on us real quick, Malachi. And it's crazy because, like you said, it's trusting in man over the Most High. Not to say now the scriptures do, and that's what I'm gonna give is the balance to what I'm about to say. The scriptures do give advice as far as when to seek a physician, and that the physician has some place. But ultimately, when it comes to life and death, a physician can only do so much. They bring you in, they try to catch it at a certain point, and oftentimes, if they do call themselves curing you, they have to take something. They give you a pill, yeah, to help you with the pain, but it'll make you drowsy, it'll make you sleepy. You can't drive, you can't work, you can't do anything. It's a give and take type of relationship with the so-called medicines that they're giving our people. So many people are saying, man, look at the side effects for one. Look at all the people that are dying. Look at the vaccines that got pulled. Look at, the statistics. Look at the cover-ups. Look at all the medical doctors and professionals that are saying that it's not necessary, that it's not ready. Clinical trials, the guinea pigs. Excuse me. You have all these different things that are being said against actually conforming to the mandates, and yet, people still trust in men over trusting in the Most High. After a doctor, at a certain point, some people have seen it and heard it for themselves. The doctor can only do so much, and then they get to the point where they're like, "Hey, well, we can send you home for your last days. We'll put you on hospice, and we'll give you this kind of medication, or we'll do what we can to keep you comfortable." But after a certain point, there's nothing they could do. So it's like, well, if I see that you have a limit, then I'm going to trust in the Most High. Because when you die, who's going to be the judge of your soul? Not your doctor. But like I said, let's bring some balance to that. Sirach chapter 38, let's start at verse 1.
Sirach 38:1. Honor a physician with the honor due unto him for the uses which ye may have of him.
So he said you can respect the doctor for the uses that you may have of him. If you got a bad toothache, it's not to say that you can't pray to the Most High, but it's like, okay, that's something that after you pray or after you seek mercy, go to a dentist, go to a doctor, go to a physician and tell them what your ailment is. Have respect for them for the things that they can do. Yeah, they can solve a toothache. That may not be something that you got to drop to your knees and fast about. Not necessarily. That's something that you could go to a dentist and they could just get fixed up for you. Go ahead.
For of the Most High cometh healing, and he shall receive honor of the king.
But it says of the Most High cometh healing. So if you have a major ailment, you find out it's something life-threatening, you find out it could be something life-threatening, then it says, okay, when it comes to that healing, you got to pray to the Most High. Drop down to, read verse 4.
Verse 4. The Lord hath created medicines out of the earth, and he that is wise will not abhor them.
So the Most High created medicines out of the earth. And he said, if you're wise, you're not going to refuse those medicines. It's a whole lot of stuff. Certain things even are taboo. Jake, and I'm going to walk this real fine line for a minute. Those that get it, going to get it. Obviously, there are certain things that you can overuse, that you can abuse, and that can become harmful if you use them for the sake of entertainment, in a sense. You go to if you have surgery or you break a bone, they give you pills, and 6 months down the line, your arm is perfectly fine, but you still throwing pills back, that's a problem. If you have medicines out of the earth that are good for relieving pain, Most High is saying, look, that's what I put them there for. It's no coincidence that you could bake this plant and then put it in some butter or put it in something and eat that, and it's going to give you the best sleep you've ever had. It's no coincidence that this is going to help you with your back pain. It's no coincidence that she had sciatica for 10 years and you eating this plant and it's helping you with that. It's no coincidence. He said, and he that's wise is not going to abhor those things. A lot of it'd be like, no, like, bro. And if you really can't handle certain things, or if certain things really do make you uncomfortable, he that knoweth good and doesn't do it is sin unto him. But it says if you wise, you're gonna learn a little something about it. Learn a little something about the medicines that the Most High has put in the earth, because they're going to help you with the ailments you face. Just about everybody we know got some kind of back ailment, some kind of knee ailment, can't sleep, ain't got a good appetite. You got all these different issues, and the Most High said, look, I gave you medicines. I gave you certain things to be able to help with that. Drop down to verse 9.
Verse 9, my son, in thy sickness be not negligent, but pray unto the Lord, and he will make thee whole.
So they say it ain't no reason out of the Bible to not take a vaccine. Well, the Most High said, look, when you sick, don't be negligent. Do what you got to do. He said, pray. He didn't say go visit the doctor, man. You need to do what you got to do. You need to go. He said, no, pray. That's the first thing that you should be doing. There's your evidence that supports the claim, right? Go ahead.
Leave off from sin and pride. Leave off from sin and order thine hands aright, and cleanse thy heart from all wickedness.
So he said, leave off from sin. First thing is, when you pray to the Most High about your sickness, get out of the things that made him make you sick in the first place. Sickness is often it's a judgment. That's literally your body. You just, what is a sickness, right? You feel like crap. You're not comfortable. It's literally just affliction. The Most High said, leave off of the things that made me put you in that situation in the first place. Leave off of that. And when you're sick and you feeling uncomfortable and everything's terrible, you ain't really worried about too much besides getting better. Then the things that you wasn't really willing to hear when you was nice and strong and healthy, you kind of turn an ear to a little bit more when you got something going on that's humbling you. He said, leave off of your sin and cleanse your heart. Drop down to verse 12, because he talks about sacrifice, and then he goes on to what?
Verse 12, then give place to the physician.
It says, then give place to the physician. So if you've prayed and you've really cleansed your spirit, you've really, repented from the things that you're doing wrong, he says, okay, at that point, then you go and ask the physician. At that point, then you can go and seek out some type of medical attention or some type of help. It's been so many times, even growing up in a Christian church, pastor blood pressure all high, about to have a heart attack during the service. Oh, he's not taking his medication anymore. We're going to pray about it. I'm like, okay, that's cool. The Most High gave you wisdom, though. And I didn't even have this at the time, but I'm like, at a certain point, if you already have the solution in your hand, shouldn't you pray to the Most High and then use the solution? Why? About how far is it going to go before you start to have some type of balance? But you're not reading the scriptures. Scriptures give you that balance. It tells you how to maneuver and when the physician comes in and when it's something that you should be doing within your prayer closet. But I just wanted to bring that out because the religious leaders saying that there is no reason to not get the vaccine, the religious leaders saying that, there's no reason to rely and trust in God. Like, man, how you a man of God supposed to be a shepherd and a leader to the people, and you don't even believe? Man, if you in one of these religions, it's time to start asking questions. You can take us back over to the PowerPoint. For favor. It says, lawyers say black FedEx driver was chased and shot at in Mississippi, drawing comparisons to Ahmaud Arbery's murder. 2 white men were arrested this week after a black FedEx driver in Mississippi accused them of chasing and shooting at him as he tried to drop off a delivery, a case that has drawn comparisons to the 2020 killing of Ahmaud Arbery. Gregory Case and his son Brandon Case were arrested Tuesday in connection with the January 24th incident. The elder Case faces a charge of conspiracy, while Brandon Case is charged with shooting into a motor vehicle. DeMontario Gibson, 24, accused the men of pursuing him because he is black, and Gibson's attorneys are asking for the men to face federal hate crime charges. Black drivers are afraid to deliver packages in certain neighborhoods. Carlos E. Moore, one of Gibson's attorneys, said at a Thursday news conference, adding that many black delivery drivers across the country have shared similar experiences with him since the January 24th attack. So, brother just trying to do his job. And it's crazy. Let's go over to Deuteronomy 28. It's crazy how much, we've been talking about the curses all month, and you constantly see it reaffirmed in our everyday lives, in the news story, in our personal experiences, and the things that we see and the things that we hear. We are always ever present of the curses. Go to 28, verse 65.
Deuteronomy 28 and verse 65, and among these nations shalt thou find no ease, neither shall the sole of thy foot have rest.
Uh-huh.
But the Lord shall give thee there a trembling heart, and failing of eyes, and sorrow of mind.
Sorrow of mind, depression. Go ahead.
And thy life shall hang in doubt before thee, and thou shalt fear day and night, and shall have none assurance of this life.
Of thy life.
Thy life.
So look at all the different ways. So they're already saying, man, this draws back to what just happened in 2020. You have so many different ways and reasons that our people are dying. You know, you had the saying driving while black. It's like now you literally can't do anything safely as an Israelite man in this country. You can't work safely. This brother is at work. You know he had a FedEx uniform on. It ain't like he running around in a ski mask and some black hoodie. It ain't like he even fits any kind of description. And mind you, if he's working for FedEx, I would imagine he's in a truck. I would imagine, unless FedEx has it to where you could deliver packages in your personal vehicle, maybe they have different things in different states. But every driver that I've ever seen, they got a uniform and a truck at bare minimum, right? So this brother was being pursued, being shot at. So you can't work while black. You can't drive while black. I'm going to say while Israel. You can't work while you Israel. You can't drive while you Israel. You can't go to the store and get candy and iced tea. You can't be at school because you got Kendrick Johnson. He was found dead in a school gym. You can't be at the train station. You can't play at the park. You can't do anything. You can't be in the comfort of your own home like Breonna Taylor. You can't get arrested like Sandra Bland. You literally can't do anything while being an Israelite safely in this country. Everywhere we go and everything we doing, I don't know if you can hear, even right now, it's hella sirens that's passing by. Our lives are in constant, they're always hanging in the balance. They got to the point where every time I leave, somebody be like, all right, you be safe. I say, I'll try. Because it's literally, you don't know when your life is going to end. You don't know when, you're going to be, or where the oppressor is going to roll up, and that's going to be the end of you. Somebody decides to press your line, and it be your time. You never know, because we still are in the land of our captivity. We're still here, subject to these curses.
You guys want to just check out Lamentations 4 and 16? Sure. Yeah, Lamentations 4 and 18. Just about, if you're not on your P's and Q's with the Most High, this is the ultimate end. The Most High can get you out of a situation, but this is what they're doing.
Lamentations chapter 4, verse 18. They hunt our steps, that we cannot go in our streets. Our end is near, our days are fulfilled, for our end is come.
And it's not that these are our streets, but I mean that hunting, if you're wearing the wrong, and I like that what you had brought out earlier about like maybe he was doing like FedEx, flex and stuff like that. When we're caught in the wrong attire or clothes with our enemies, like it's like game day with them, It's like, and that's why I see a lot of Jakes out here, like in South Central or in Compton, whatever, that they got the work vest on because like it's like a shield, I mean, it's not the Most High shield, but that's kind of like.
It looks a lot less like you just out here doing BS for the most part.
Yeah, so it gives them a sense of like worldly type of grace. But if you're really not with the Most High, like it's not gonna work regardless.
That's a hell of a point because Jay showed me having that vest on and head is
yeah, bro. I've been seeing him too. Like, man, this guy just got out the warehouse.
Right. Hey, but it's crazy though. It's you really do have people that's rocking the work vest, ordering stuff off of Amazon and getting it delivered or taking it from old jobs or whatever the case may be. You wearing a work vest on your day off just so that you in the wrong area, you can have, like you said, that worldly grace.
Yeah.
You over in the wrong area, white folks get to looking at you, but they see that work vest on. They're like, okay, he over here doing something.
Right.
He wouldn't be over here on no BS with that high visibility work vest on. Okay, let's give him a little bit of time, but I don't want to see him after this.
Right.
And that's crazy.
Yeah,
on your off day.
And that we even have to think like that. I mean, it's cool that we did, but it's like, dang, the fact that we gotta think like that, like, man, it's nuts out here, man. It's really nuts.
Crazy. Let's throw out. It says, brace yourself. Grocery prices are about to go through the roof again. Sick of sticker shock at the supermarket. Don't expect relief anytime soon. That's the word from Mighty Goldman Sachs, which says in a report to clients that grocery prices will rise by as much as 6% this year, on top of a similar increase last year. I think last year it increased by 7%. The stage has been set for further substantial increases in retail food prices this year, the investment bank's economists wrote in the report. Excuse me, dang, I don't know what's going on tonight. They blamed COVID-related supply issues as well as high labor costs and rising expenses for fertilizer and other farming necessities. So every year there's always a strain. Let me see, hold on one second. Every year there's always a strain of, on the farming industry, right? Farmers, I'm always seeing farmers talk about the struggles of getting approved for loans, getting the proper equipment. The prices are always going up, and pretty much they have like a window where it's a high risk, high reward. They take out all these federal loans and all this stuff to get the right equipment, and either they get a really good crop yield and they be able to make a profit and return all that money and have something for themselves, or it's like, they go deeper into a hole. Especially so-called black farmers, Israelite farmers. There's only 6% left of what it initially started off. I'm going to just read this real quick, Revelation 6:6. And I heard a voice in the midst of the four beasts say, a measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny, and see thou hurt not the oil and the wine. So if you read this parable, they was working the whole day for a penny. And he said a measure of wheat. You get you a loaf of bread, it's going to cost you a penny. But that was everything that they had worked for. So he's really talking about how, the inflation goes. And you see, again, these things are not, this is happening in America. It's just now affecting us. But Venezuela's economy crashed about, 2 or 3 years ago? If not longer. I remember seeing even in high school, because of the inflation happening in Venezuela, it was like $250,000 in local currency for a loaf of bread. People were taking wheelbarrows of money to their grocery stores to be able to buy basic necessities. And not like a eat all week, more like a eat today and tomorrow kind of necessity. But the value of the money had plummeted so far that there was, it was like you could just weigh the money, and it was worth, it was easier to burn it than it was to actually spend it. You have something you want to bring up?
Just briefly, real quick too. If the idea of, not the idea, but if the reality of inflation doesn't hit, you just don't get it. Just think about this: Dollar Tree food or stuff, rather. Yeah, Dollar Tree stuff and food is no longer $1 anymore. It's $1.25. The 99-cent store, I don't know for how long, but they don't sell everything there just for 99 cents. It's, they got other stuff too. So just consider and think about that as far as prices. I mean, the gases and such like that, prices are really going up. The value of what you have is not matching. I remember being able to get like a $7 or $8, profit like of a burger meal at a mom and pop's burger joint, like Tam's or Chris's Burgers, whatever. A couple years back, 5 years, 6 years, 7 years back, again for like $7-8. But now that's costing you close to $11. And on top of all of that, if you just ask for the meal, they'll just automatically charge you the large. They won't, no questions asked. You'd be like, oh, I didn't want, the large of it. Just give me the small. But they'll automatically just get you the large just to get their profits. So, people are trying to get, businesses and consumers are trying to get their money's worth in everything. But the value of our trading stuff is really depreciating. So inflation is a real thing going on. Shoot, I guess we can. Con, you want me to switch to the next one? Okay, cool.
Yeah, sure.
You got a working mic?
Yes, sir.
All right, cool.
Judge dismisses case. So, of course, we're going to talk about L.A. real quick. And I know we are going to get to the Russian and Ukraine because that's like the main thing to talk about, honestly. And I'm probably going to spend a good amount of time on it. I think this is like the second to last, but we're going to go through this quickly. Criminal charges were dismissed Tuesday against 3 LAPD officers accused of falsely documenting people as gang members. Following more than 2 weeks of testimony at a preliminary hearing, L.A. County Superior Court Judge Michael Pastor ruled that prosecutors did not have enough evidence to continue with the case against officers Rene Braga, Julio Garcia, and Raul Uribe. It's crazy because them sound like 10 tribes. Them sound like so-called Mexicans, right? The 10 tribes. According to the officer's attorney and a transcript of Pastor's remarks, in reaching his decision, Pastor noted that the officers had been accused of misrepresenting evidence in a single case, not a pattern of offenses, as are 3 other LAPD officers who have been charged in another case. Pastor said he did not believe the officers had the specific intent to make false statements or a fraudulent or deceitful purpose when they noted in police records that people they encountered during a traffic stop had gang affiliations. I beg to differ. You know a gang member when you see one, and it's oftentimes very easy. Now, keep in mind, this is LAPD, right? And LA is like one of the gang capitals, if not the gang capital of the world. You got 3, you know, they had 3 specific cases. It already went to court. It already had something, but it was able to stand before a judge as opposed to a jury. So the judge was saying, well, I don't think they did it intentionally. Mind you, not noting any of the actual description, not noting the pictures, not even noting what evidence they had to try to support the claim initially. They must have at least seen a tattoo, a color, or something to be able to say, okay, these are likely gang members. None of that is noted in the report. It's just thrown out by a judge. So that sounds awfully convenient. But, you know, that's L.A. Last thing, speaking of, actually, we're into the Russia and Ukraine. So, I know it's been on everybody's minds. It's been on mine all day. Woke up this morning, and I usually have this thing where I don't even like to check my phone first thing in the morning. But today I did. I went to my email, and then I instantly went over to news, and I was like, oh, there it is. Russia had officially attacked Ukraine. And so now the question really boils down to, well, what's next? What's going to happen? How is it all going to go? You know, what should we do? There's just so many different questions that came up. And real quick, let's get over to, okay, come on, let's go over to Matthew chapter 24. All the things that we've been talking about, it seems like every stick to the script, every current events, we go back to this chapter, either here or 2nd Ezra 15 or 16, because it's literally just so much. Intensifying each time. It's like every time, first it'd be a little while where you don't really hear certain stuff. It might be some floods, it might be a natural disaster, but lately it's just been constant as far as actual like humans being involved in the events. Let's start at Matthew chapter 24, and let's start at verse 5.
Matthew 24 and verse 5. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. So
you had, just look at what we covered tonight, right? You had these religious leaders supposed to exemplify the ideals of the religion, and they saying, we don't really stand behind the religion. We say that you should go and trust the doctor. Many are coming in the name of Christ, but deceiving many. Go ahead.
And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled. For all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet.
He said wars, excuse me, wars and rumors of wars. So we've been hearing about this for a little while. We heard about, China building the full-scale models of U.S. ships that they've been practicing in some desert in China. You hear about all these different things that are changing, all these troops that are being mobilized. He said you're going to hear of wars and the rumors of wars, but don't be troubled because the end is not yet. Go ahead.
For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places.
So kingdom against kingdom. You literally have Russia and Ukraine going at it. You have the U.S. and China tensions. You had what was that? North Korea not too many years ago. They was threatening, he was gonna blow everybody up. He said, nation against nation, kingdom against kingdom, there's famines. Didn't we just talk about how the grocery prices are going higher? How the gas prices, actually that's what we about to talk about, the gas prices are getting worse. There's a lack of resources in the land, right? He said pestilences. Not only are we always talking about COVID, but now you have this new HIV variant. You have, who knows how many other undiscovered variants or diseases amongst people that just haven't been classified. You have all these things that are happening at the same place. And then you have the earthquakes in diverse places. We started off with the mudslides and the death toll in Brazil. All these things. That's why I said we be looking for it like it's going to happen consecutively. The whole time, it's all going on all at the same time.
Right.
He's read on.
And then there should be, excuse me, let me go back up. All these are the beginning of sorrows.
He said this is just the beginning. This is just the start of it all. This ain't even like as much as this might weigh on somebody, as much as this make people stress out, as much as people go to panic buy. Went to Costco, the line was just, way back just to get gas. Costco packed. You're going to start seeing it on the news. Everybody go, they buy up the toilet paper, they buy up anything that's in the store. He said, these are just the beginning of sorrows. This is just the start. Let's get into this. It says, Russia's invasion of Ukraine will only add fuel to the fire of high gas prices. Most gas stations in LA right now, you're looking at about close to $5 a gallon. You might find a rare gas station here and there. They charging, like $4.20, $4.40. I know of at least one that's charging $4.39, but the rest of them is $4.89, $4.99, $5.02. And he's saying it's only going to get worse. Gasoline prices are likely to rise following Russia's actions in Ukraine and the massive sanction President Joe Biden promised in response. Just how high will they eventually go will depend on Russia's next move. For now, experts say expect $4 a gallon for much of the U.S. by early spring. Some traditionally pricey gas markets, like California and Hawaii, are likely to head past $5 a gallon. So, got cut off. So just with that, right? We're already at $5 a gallon. He said it's likely to exceed that. They already know that it's going to. Russia declared war. They got hit with sanctions, and yet the U.S. people are paying for it. How at all does that affect Russia? I'm sure somewhere down the line, some economist is pulling their hair out saying, you don't understand, but no, please help me. Because you take a hit at the pump every time you go, and they're saying it's going to get worse, and America is trying to punish somebody else. I just don't see, as a consumer, how that punishes Russia, how that punishes the Russian government. All right?
Stuff about sanctions and embargoes, and just the fact that the world that we live in today is hyper connected, and it's a global community. So every little thing affects some sector of somehow. But again, the economists can probably be like, "No, you fool, it's like this." But
I don't even doubt, because I'm not an economist. I don't doubt that there's some type of connection. But when I'm the one pulling up to the gas station and I see that 40, 45, 50, 55, and I'm seeing that every week, it ain't too much you can tell me. Let me put it that way. It ain't too much that you finna tell me that's gonna make me feel better about pulling up to that gas pump and getting hit in the pocket like that. So it says, Biden warns Americans in Ukraine to leave. Sending troops to evacuate would be world war. So this was a couple of days ago. This was actually on the 10th. So it was about 2 weeks ago. Prior to Russia actually officially invading, President Joe Biden issued a warning Thursday to any Americans who remain in Ukraine as Russia continues to threaten an invasion. Leave. American citizens should leave now, Biden said in an interview. It's not like we're dealing with a terrorist organization. We're dealing with one of the largest armies in the world. It's a very different situation, and things could go crazy quickly, he said. Holt asked Biden what scenario could prompt him to send American troops fleeing the country. Send troops to rescue Americans fleeing the country. Biden replied, "There's not. There's a world war when Americans and Russia start shooting at one another. We're in a very different world than we've ever been," he added. So this was 14 days ago, right? And I really want to paint this context because these articles are in conjunction with one another. Between a 2-week span, how quickly things changed and are likely to change within the next 2 weeks. So Biden initially was saying, hey, if you're an American, you're somewhere in Russia or Ukraine, it's time for you to get out because there's no way that we're going to send rescue to be able to do that for you. We're not sending in a task force. We're not sending in the SEAL team. You're going to have to figure it out. You got as much time as they'll give you, but you got to find your way out of there. So they're asking him, okay, under what scenario would you possibly consider? He said, look, there's nothing that's going to make me send troops over there because as soon as, it only takes one trigger, one happy trigger, one slip up, one mistake, one anything, and it's a world war between some of the largest so-called superpowers on the earth, Russia and America. And if any of their troops start shooting at each other, once blood is spilled, it'll never end. Then everybody's riding off the blood of one soldier, the entire army. It works like a colony of ants. Everybody's going to be after the opposing nation or the opposing soldier. Then once that soldier gets killed, that entire army is involved. So he's saying in order to avoid another world war, he has to just try to do as little as possible, at least troop-wise. Separately on Thursday, the State Department issued an advisory warning that the U.S. will not be able to evacuate U.S. citizens in the event of Russian military action anywhere in Ukraine. It warned that regular consulate service, including aiding citizens trying to leave the country, would be severely impacted. According to a U.S. military and intelligence assessment, the Russian military could launch a full-scale invasion with tanks that potentially could reach Kyiv, the capital, within 48 hours. Biden argued that if Russian President Vladimir Putin is foolish enough to go in, he's smart enough not to. In fact, do anything that would negatively impact on American citizens. Have you ever told him that? Holt asked. Yes, Biden responded. So they pretty much playing semantics, like, man, touch one of mine and it's on. But we're going to try our best to stay out the way because we already know where it's going to go if anybody gets touched.
Yeah, it was the Ukrainian president a few hours ago, earlier today, actually did mention that there were about 130-something deaths with military personnel, not their own civilians. So blood is spilt already.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you can see, a lot of the major news outlets are obviously very centered, but you can see a whole lot of stuff on Facebook. I wasn't able to pull it up because it's one of those share restrictions where it only gets shared with people, I guess, the profile chose to share it with. But you can see, all the stuff that's going on. And that's one of the good things about social media is because it does offer uncensored, raw news, the opportunity to really see what's going on the ground because people who are there in the situations that are watching the planes fly over, that are seeing the tanks drive in and see the bodies and smell the blood, they're able to go live and show the world what's happening. But I read something earlier, and I didn't put it in there, that Russia was, obviously they're trying to cripple Ukraine. They're attacking airports. They're attacking major infrastructure, attacking radio towers. The internet is down in a lot of places. So pretty soon we're not going to be able to hear anything of the conflict outside of what is coming through major news sources because Russia is attacking anything that will allow people to pretty much it's going to be a media blackout because of the infrastructure that they're attacking. And it won't be anything left besides the people that are involved and the people that are invading. So but this was, mind you, 10 days ago. This is what Biden says. There's no way that we're going to be going in. You're going to have to figure it out, right? Let me see. That one's a little bit out of... But here we are today. The Pentagon orders another 7,000 American troops to Europe. Right? So just here 14 days ago, he was saying there's no way. But now they stationing 7,000 troops in Europe, specifically in Germany. It says the Pentagon said on Thursday that it was sending an additional 7,000 troops to Europe after Russia's invasion of Ukraine launched the biggest land war in Europe since World War II. Defense Secretary Lloyd J. Austin III ordered the deployment of an armored brigade combat team to Germany to reassure NATO allies. The Pentagon said in a statement, in particular, American military officials want to send another message. While the United States is staying out of Ukraine, it will not hesitate to act if Vladimir Putin of Russia turns his eye toward a member of the Atlantic Alliance. So, it just, that's the same thing that Russia did, gathering around Ukraine. They had their weeks where they was gathering all their stuff up, but they swore they wasn't going to invade, and then they finally did. So now America is saying, okay, we're going to stay out of it, but now they're stationing their troops and their tanks, and they're putting their people around the borders of Russia, saying, okay, we're going to stay out of it, but it's like, okay, but how long until that changes? This was a 2-week difference from we'll never go to we're right out, we outside. We at the door. Just don't turn the wrong way, don't look the wrong way. That was 2-week change. So imagine what it's going to look like 2 weeks in the future, or, just moving forward, how quickly the conflict can become a world war. And it's not like this is World War I, World War II, where nuclear weapons are brand new and people are just now starting to understand the capabilities. There are like 4,000 nuclear warheads between Russia and America's arsenals. We see all these things about, there being few people left in the earth. Let's go over the second Ezra again. Because it's like, you would have to think, with all the people, the earth is currently overpopulated, so they say, right? So many people on earth. The resources, the space seems very limited, right? And you have to wonder how it's going to go from that extreme population to what we're going to read right here. Chapter 15, 2nd Ezra chapter 15. And let's start at verse 19.
2nd Ezra 15 and verse 19. A man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread.
So he said a man is not going to have a pity upon his neighbor. He's going to destroy his house. They're going to be destroying houses with the sword and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread, right? So we talked about the inflation, the famine, the lack of resources. It's going to get to a point where people are going to be breaking in everybody's house because there ain't nothing left. There's no grocery store for you to go to. There's no, anything for you to go and buy. Whatever is out there and in people's houses, the stuff that people have stored up, that's going to be all there is that's available. And again, a lot of times I feel like we're looking for this to happen on such a huge scale, and it's already happening, right? Hold on, I'm looking for a particular scripture. It says, yeah, you can read the next.
2nd Ezra 15 and verse 20. Behold, saith God, I will call together all the kings of the earth to reverence me, which are from the rising of the sun, from the south, from the east, and Libanus, to turn themselves one against another, and repay the things that they have done to them.
Go ahead.
Like as they do yet this day unto my chosen, so will I do also, and recompense in their bosom. Thus saith the Lord God.
Hold on. Okay, here we go. Drop down to no.
Same.
Yeah, but it's a specific verse that I'm looking for. Something very specific. Man, it's making me mad. I can't find it. Con.
All right. Okay. So before he can get his scripture to continue his point, it's important to note too that yes, we know that a lot of these wars and rumors of wars and earthquakes in diverse places have been happening again like 60 years plus and stuff like that. But what's special about this is the fact that we know that America is Babylon and Egypt, right? And we know that the second most powerful country and nation, stemming all the way back, remember, from the Soviet Union, I mean, in the Cold War, is Russia. And it's no coincidence that Russia themselves occupied the land and territory that is Gog and Magog, which is written about in prophecy in Revelations and as well as Ezekiel as well too. So we don't want to jump the gun as far as putting us in a specific point in time in prophecy and scriptures, but it's definitely setting up. It's definitely setting up for what's written in Revelations chapter 20 and verse 8. Yeah. Dealing with, again, Gog and Magog, Russia, again, occupying that area, and China occupying some of those areas too. And China's been on the rise to be, supposedly in their names, the next world power when America fails and falls down. I mean, that's not predicted in Scripture, but again, these places and these figureheads and these ancient land territories are coming on the forefront in prophecies and revelations to this point. So it's important, that we're aware of these things.
God. Revelation chapter 20, verse 8, and shall go out to deceive the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them together to battle, the number of whom is as the sand of the sea.
Which reads just parallel what SHAMAR brought out in 2nd Ezra, which again deals with these times we're in right now too.
Con. 2nd Ezra chapter 16, and
I got it. Well, when you find it.
Let's go to, let's start at verse 21. So this is what I was talking about, right? I want to get it one after another so it makes sense. How do we go from the overpopulation of the earth, so many of the resources being overused and exhausted, to what the scriptures are talking about here? Start at verse 21.
Verse 21 in 2nd Ezra chapter 16. Behold, victuals.
Actually, I'm sorry. Let's go 22.
22. For many of them that dwell upon earth shall perish of famine, and the other that escape the hunger shall the sword destroy. And the dead shall be cast out as dung, and there shall be no man to comfort them. For the earth shall be wasted, and the cities shall be cast down.
Go ahead.
There shall be no man left till the earth, and to sow it.
So you have to think, what kind of events are going to take place to the overpopulation that there is now, to literally there being so many bodies, they just get thrown out as dung. You know what dung is? Poop. It's poop. Like, you don't even regard it. You trying to get rid of it. And you see, and that's why I talked about, movies and visualization. You see how oftentimes in these movies, there be so many dead bodies, they don't get dealt with. You see in these like apocalyptic movies, even in the video games, zombies and all that kind of stuff. And then there's always that horde that's around the cemeteries, because there were just so many bodies, they couldn't get buried. There were so many people that were dying. There was nobody to even be able to take care of it all, because it was more people dying than there are actually working to resolve the matter. Then it just gets to a point where it's like, okay, hey, we got to do what we can. People got to live or survive or escape however they can. Read verse 27.
Verse 27, so that one man shall desire to see another and to hear his voice.
He said it's going to get so bad, there's going to be so many dead that men will literally, or people will literally just be like, man, it's been so long since I've seen someone alive. You just desire to see somebody one more time and to just hear their voice. You're like, hold on, I don't even want to fight. Man, it's plenty. Or, it may not be a whole lot, but what I got, I'm willing to, because I just ain't seen another person in so long. Man, why, look at, man, watch these movies, man. Like, it's so many plague movies, apocalypse movies, where you see that being the case. People be alone for such long stints of time. They just be happy to see each other, happy to even know that there's another survivor out there. And they like, man, how did you do it? How did you even survive with all the stuff that's going on?
And remember, these are going to be a lot of the things that at least those who maybe have survived, the unrepentant either of Israel or the heathen, this is the stuff they're going to be experiencing, because we, as you know, as far as keeping the laws, we know we're going to be grouped and gathered, you know, as sheep together. So we're not going to have that extremeness, but the Most High is giving you an example and a foresight of like, look, this is what the wicked are going to be suffering through, you know,
And that
isolation.
But that's also to say that we lived through it.
Right. Yeah.
If it's you know, you saw what happened in Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
Yeah.
And that was in what, the 40s?
Yeah, 1940.
It's almost been 100 years. They have computers smaller, like a 100th of a size of a grain of rice. There were, if you haven't seen oh man, I think it's called Espionage, or the Art of Spying, pretty much, on Netflix. They talk about all the different things that have happened and occurred in espionage between the nations, and the amount of sheer technology they used. They literally said it got to the point where to be able to pass secret messages, they already had like incredible devices, right? The typewriters, stuff that got hollowed out, you know, a pack of cigarettes, that's a camera, you push the cigarette down a certain way, take a picture, the phone in the shoe. They already had the stuff that was like, whoa. But there was one, I think he was like an ex-director of the CIA or the FBI. He said that they can implant a message on someone's DNA. So imagine, you know, usually they got to pass something across the table. Act natural, don't look at me. You know, they doing the espionage. Now imagine if you were just give somebody a vial of blood, and they go and they look under it under a microscope and its coordinates. Or imagine if someone just has to get into the country and they're like, do you have the message? I am the message. It's in my DNA. Just look at all the things, like all, you know what I mean? Like all the insane stuff that's going to be happening that's in the earth. It's like all these things. So imagine what the nuclear warfare looks like. Imagine what the war is going to look like. He said it's not going to be anybody left. I would imagine this includes, he said just a man will desire to see one another. Righteous, wicked, old, young, they just be happy to see anybody, because that's how bad it's going to get in the earth. So, you know, Most High, I don't know, would you want to be alive for that?
As long as the Most High is getting us through and we're trying to be righteous, whatever He wants to put on us, let it be put on us.
Exactly. That's
Give
the best.
me the loneliness.
Let His will be done, because we don't really know who's going to make it, but there's going to be very, very, very few that are actually left. I Am Legend was a perfect example of that.
Right.
Remember when he found the woman who was alive with her son, and it was like they was blown away to actually see somebody else alive? There's so many different examples that have already been shown. But we're going to finish this up. Read verse 28.
Second Ezra 16 and 28. For of a city there shall be 10 left, and 2 of the field, which shall hide themselves in the thick groves and in the clefts of the rocks.
So everybody, you know, for the few people that are left, they're going to be, you know, really difficult to find, because everybody's going to be hiding from themselves, trying to hoard resources, trying to just survive. And drop down to verse 31.
Verse 31. Even and so in those days shall there be 3 or 4 left by them that search their houses with the sword.
He said, but even in that time, as bad as it's going to be, as few people as there are, as little resources as there will be, he said there's still going to be 3 or 4 rolling around in groups trying to break into houses and find those last few survivors. Find that last little bit of bread, that last little bit of water. You remember in the book of Eli, they was, what was it? Everybody was, there were factions. Everybody was after the water, and every little resource was precious. He needed a charge for his little iPod. He was like, what do you offer? He had like some KFC wet naps just to be able to get clean, and that was like a treasure. So it's still going to be those that are going and breaking up and stealing from what little that remains, because there's just going to be such a lack. So, you know, just keep that in mind, Israel. It's really easy for us to get absorbed and to be so occupied in our everyday lives. It's so easy to just look at the job every day, day in, day out, Monday through Friday. You clock in, you go home. You got stuff, you know, you got other responsibilities. You got kids, they take up so much of your time. It's easy to get worn out. It's easy to get exhausted. But the reality is, it's like, man, there's still so much that's coming. That's the hard part. It's like, yeah, we be exhausted. We be thinking about all this stuff that's going on. We still suffer the curses. We still in the land of our captivity. That anguish of mind is real. Our people be depressed, going through it, mentally broken, stressed out, feeling hopeless. All kinds of things that we already experience that weigh on us on a consistent basis that we have to try to find a way to overcome. But then you read stuff like this in the scriptures that's going to be happening. It's like, man, you got to find a way to rise above that to be able to, hopefully at least get as far in it as you possibly can, because or be prepared as you possibly can, and hope that it works or that it helps. So that's just something to consider, man. And that's just something I guess has really been on my mind, just looking at everything that happens. It's easy to feel tired. It's easy to look at our issues and the things that we're going through, but it's still nothing in comparison to what is going to be coming in the earth, and gives us that sense of urgency.
And you can't go wrong having the fruits of the spirits upon you and the spirit of Isaiah 11 all in tandem. That's all going to be, that's all going to get you through. So make sure you maintain those.
That Isaiah 34:16, wisdom and knowledge will be the stability of our times. So, whatever it is, Israel, I compel you as a brother, start cutting off those things that ain't good for your spirit. I feel like everybody kind of has that time where they figuring stuff out. Maybe you ain't hit a whole lot of judgment. And I'm not even saying I'm where I wish I was or where I feel I should be. But, we kind of have those things that we play with in a sense. We take the mercies of the Most High for granted. We take Yahweh's sacrifice for granted. We struggling with our issues. We putting our desires and needs above the words of the Most High. Cut it off. Whatever it is, whether it's those pants you don't want to let go of, you don't like the way the fringes look on your shirt, you struggling with, things behind closed doors, the lust of the flesh, your pride, whatever it is, man, let's, as the scriptures say, provoke one another to well-doing. Let this be your provocation. Start doing better. Start finding a way to take steps in the right direction to hope to seek the Most High's face and hope to get as perfect as possible to the point where we are acceptable in His eyes. Because we may not have that much time left. We could be talking right now and a bomb, or a missile or rocket is on its way as of right now. We literally don't know when it's going to happen, but we can see clearly from everything that's in the news that it's on the horizon, right? So with that being said, Israel, please continue to tune in with us for the rest of the week and, the remainder of our classes. Every Tuesday is Bible Basics. Every Wednesday, we have World History According to the Bible. The second and fourth Thursday, we have Stick to the Script. I believe the first and third Monday, we have Spanish class. Every Friday at 7:30 p.m., we have Room 144. And every Saturday at 4:30 p.m., we have Feed the Sheep. So we have something for everybody, something as far as everybody's interests, everybody's schedule. Most High willing, we'll see you in one of those classes. And with that, we say shalom.